Say hi, Sabine. Hi all you Maverick gamers, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Shard Tabletop. It's a VTT that I myself have just actually dove into. So let's strap in and have a look, shall we? Shard Tabletop is a relatively basic VTT. I said it's very stripped down as far as lots of fluff, frills and such. It doesn't really have that, evidenced by the landing page. This is what the landing page actually looks like right here. So essentially you're going to create an account. At this point, if you don't have any campaigns to join, i.e. you don't have a dungeon master, what you're going to see here is my characters. It's going to prompt you to join a campaign or make a new campaign. Now, one thing to note, as a free user, you're going to be limited in some of the content that you're going to be able to make use of. So you're only going to be able to play in one campaign. And I think you can only create one campaign as well. And your character limit is capped at 6. So if you do want to actually experience more of what Shard has to offer, they do have a premium service. You can subscribe at an adventure tier for $2 a month, and I do believe the Dungeon Master tier is set at $5.99 a month, so thereabouts. So I'm going to show you some of the things that already I've started to use and why I'm going to be using this for some of my sessions. So right off the bat, it is worth noting that this is not a fully authorized compendium VTT, and what I mean by that is that some VTTs will have licensing agreements with Wizards of the Coast, which means basically you can tap into the entire player's handbook and authorize content from Wizards of the Coast. Shard does not have that. It has the SRD, basically the community rules packet that Wizards of the Coast has released to the public at large for free. So you will be able to actually access the core rules in the game, but you won't actually have access to the player's handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual. I'll show you what that means here. So I'm going to walk you through the basics of making a character, just as an introduction to Shard, because that's probably what your players are going to be doing as they first start off. So we're going to create a new character. You'll see very clearly here how this is all stitched together. So I'm going to create that character. So what you're going to see here at the top is basically the step-by-step process to making a character, just like you would if you were in D&D Beyond. You're going to pick a race. Now, some of the cool things that Shard does differently is they do a lot of visual cues and a lot of visual elements. So when you pick on your race, you actually have the different races here as well as sort of a visual on it. And I'm just going to pick a human here, just because I'm boring like that. When you click it, it tells you a little bit about the human, and then you just choose which one you want. I'm going to choose the basic human. I'm going to select it, and that goes into your character sheet. You close it, and then it just walks you through the next steps. The next steps being your class, we'll say. And again, using the visual elements pops up the various classes that you can choose from. Again, being a boring guy, I'm just going to take a fighter, because I'm a fighter, not a lover. And it's going to prompt you through picking the same things you would if you're making your character in D&D Beyond. It's going to ask you to pick all the required things that you need to select when you're making a first level fighter. And then it just puts them in there, and away you go. So on and on and on this goes. You're going to go down, you're going to pick your skills, you're going to pick your equipment, you're going to pick your background, your traits, all the things that would normally happen when you're making a Dungeons & Dragons character using D&D Beyond. So once that's said and done, you've got a character, and you can even go in and actually put a portrait, which I think is cool. I'm a visual guy, so D&D character sheets on D&D Beyond are nice and all. They're a lot crowded, but I like having like a portrait. Another cool thing about this character creation process and the way that they've engineered these character sheets is you can actually go down. I like this is a little tip here, but you can actually go down and you can actually click on an item, and you can attach a visual to it. Now, I like this for a lot of the reasons. If you're a player playing D&D, your equipment sheet just basically blurs into a big, long list of items that your character is carrying around in a backpack. Having an image attached to each item, I think it's great. I think it gives the player the ability to sort of have that immediate attachment to what they're carrying. If they're carrying a short sword, well, maybe he doesn't really know what a short sword looks like. You click on the short sword, and it pops up with a picture. And the next thing you know, it's kind of registered in his imagination now, and he's got an image to go on. And so now when he's in combat or playing the game, he can envision that picture that you've got attached to it. So it's a minor little thing, but I think it goes a long way to really cultivating the imagination when you play. So that said, from a player's point of view, that's pretty much where Shard ends. Really you're making your character and you're going to be playing in a campaign along with your friends and your Dungeon Master. From a Dungeon Master point of view, you're now able to start creating your campaign. So I'm going to go in here to a campaign that I've already got started and show you what that looks like. So this is my Friday campaign that I'm going to be running today. And more or less here's the interface. You have a sort of map screen or image screen right in the middle. Off to the sides you have a tab that can basically, as a Dungeon Master, tap into various things. You have a creatures tab, which is basically going to show all the players as well as any creatures you have in the game. So by clicking on it, it pulls that tab out. I'll pull it a bit there. But let's just take a quick second here, and I'm going to walk you through why I like Shard in this respect. So, not to pick on D&D Beyond, but D&D Beyond essentially has right now has one screen for your character. And if your Dungeon Master is using a virtual table in the form of maps, so the official maps beta that's running with Wizards of the Coast, or another virtual table, you're constantly flip-flopping between screens. You're accessing information on D&D Beyond that's relevant to the gameplay. You're even rolling dice. But the results of all of that, you need to either stitch it over to your on-screen virtual table, meaning your map and such, or you need to flip back to that map to see what you're doing now after making the roll. So your attention is kind of being split, not to mention that you might also be using video chat. So while Shard doesn't have a built-in video chat, it does keep your player focused on most of the elements that are important. So having a look here, you'll see that the player's going to see his character sheet, he's going to see the actual map, and he's also going to see dice results pop up. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So let's just say he needs to make an acrobatics roll. It's going to roll on the table in front of him. Now the players aren't going to see that interface, but the players down here in the corner will see the actual dice roll itself. Again, a visual, which is a minor thing, but I think it's a huge deal. So he's going to see the dice that you rolled, the color of the dice, as well as the result. The player now is still focused on this screen. He hasn't left his attention. Right now, I have a static image, and that's just because I'm not doing any combat, so I don't want my players worried about tokens and battle grids. I just want to get a thematic image in their mind. Keeping the players focused on a visual image is important, whether it be a battle map or just a generic static image. For those who don't know the pains of playing online D&D with a younger crowd, attention span is a premium currency, and so you have to spend it wisely and try and get as much as you can. So for me, I also like the fact that the character sheet isn't just in its entirety thrown in front of the player. So for example, you'll look at the top here and you'll see it's broken down by top. There's an actions. It scrolls right to the actions. When you tell the player, hey, you need to make a decision on what you're doing in this round of combat, click actions. If they want to know any features their character has, again, clicking on the features tab. So it's all broken out by specific sections. So players aren't just facing a wall of text and a wall of numbers like an encyclopedia. D&D Beyond is a mess when you look at a character sheet. It's just a pure vomit of information on the screen for players to digest. So that's cool that they've broken this down. Another neat thing is they have an adventuring log. So you can actually have session notes built right into the character sheet. So the player wants to come down here and say, I was sitting at a tavern listening to my boring DM. There you go. So they've just made a session note. And you can do that in D&D Beyond with the character sheet integration under the notes section. But again, it's just a little bit more visually laid out better in this situation. So from a Dungeon Master point of view, the other thing that's good is that if you add monsters, so I'm going to give you an example of what it would look like if we actually had a battle. So I'm going to go in here to my battle grid. I'm going to pick out this particular map that I'm going to be running today, scroll it in, and I'm going to actually put a grid on it because I need a grid for tactical combat. So you can import, upload your own map images, source out your maps. You can make them your own if you have a map making tool. However you want to do it, Shard will let you upload it into your campaign. Now at the moment, you have 3 players. So I'm going to actually add these players in the form of tokens to the map. The players can immediately access them. Go over here. so you can see them. And again, accessing their character sheet is just as simple as looking to the side. So if I click there, and as a Dungeon Master, if I want information, I can just view the details of that character right in front of me or off to the side. So everything's very intuitive, it's very easy to access. Let's talk about monsters now. So I need to add some monsters to this encounter. Because it uses the SRD rule set that was provided, you do have access to the monster compendium. So again, you're not spending a lot of time, and again, I haven't spent money to access this content. So I do have a Dungeon Master tier subscription, but this content is available just at the free level. So you're not having to purchase the Player's Handbook, the Monster's Manual, and all that, like other VTT services. So if I want some goblins, I feel bad for goblins. They always get picked on as the de facto. So there we go, and I'll just take a hobgoblin actually. There we go. And I can add that monster. So that monster gets added to the table, but here's another neat little thing, is that monster gets added without it being seen. So right now the map looks kind of foggy. I'm going to actually clear all the fog out so you can see it a little bit better. So that monster gets added to the map, but players don't see that monster. So you as a Dungeon Master can load up this map with all sorts of sinister stuff happening without the players knowing that you're doing it, and then you can reveal it to them at a later time. But you'll notice off to the side here that it's added the hobgoblin to the actual encounter. So now when I click on the hobgoblin, it switches over to the hobgoblin on this side there. As a Dungeon Master, you have no idea how helpful that is. In a world where you're sitting behind a screen with notes and tablets and computer screens and information all over the place, having your information central and easily accessible is worth its weight in gold for any Dungeon Master. So you have the ability to quickly reference the creatures, and that's simply just by clicking. So you don't have to worry about opening up a new menu or anything like that. It's right there. So let's say we have some nasty stuff happening. We're going to reveal this monster. So we're going to click on show so that the players actually see him now. And I can move him around as needed. Now another cool thing about Shard is Shard's always measuring, which is nice. It's nice for two reasons. One, I don't really need Shard to tell me that I'm moving 15 feet. I can tell that each square is 5 and I'm moving 3, i.e. 15. But when you're dealing with younger players, having that shown to them is really important, because it takes them from looking at the game as I move 3 squares to saying, oh, I just moved 15 feet. And if they have any sense of spatiality in their own life, they'll know that 15 feet is a fair bit of distance. Not only that, it puts it in perspective when they look at their character sheet and they say, oh, my character can only move 30. And then they start moving their token around and saying, oh, I need to keep it under 30. Shard doesn't stop you at 30, but it does show the player. So right now I know that this guy has a 30-foot movement. I'm going to move him right here. So having that little line that shows the distances is really great. I like it. Now let's just say this hobgoblin decides he wants to attack the players. As a Dungeon Master, I'm ready to go. I look down here on his character sheet. I say longbow. I hover over the +3 to hit, and I roll my dice. There we go. That's a critical failure for all you players out there, for all you people watching this who don't play D&D. A 1 is not a good result when you're rolling a D20. But having said that, it does display it for the players. You can roll privately, but if you want to be transparent, you can actually have your players see it. So again, having that visual off to the side helps keep the players engaged. You have no idea what I mean when I say attention span is a huge currency. Engagement is a tough thing. So any little thing that you can do on a virtual table that's going to keep engagement focused on the game, it just helps. So whether that be your face on a webcam, whether that be dice results, whether that be little tokens that they can move around, it's really at a premium. You just have to be careful that you don't lose the other aspects of playing on a virtual table, which is the imaginative play. What I mean by that is that we're sitting in a graveyard right now. So there are a lot of Dungeon Masters in the world who would just let this map speak for itself. Here you are. What do you want to do? Versus describing the environment, saying as you step into the graveyard late at night, the moon is your only light source, save for your keen elven eyesight. You see a stone crypt beside you that looks like it hasn't been attended to in years. Mice and other rodents crawl in and out of it as you stand and watch. What do you do? So that kind of a narrative, that kind of a description is going to fuel the imagination in combination with the visual that you're putting in front of them in the map. So some other tools that I do enjoy is they have a very cool handout feature. Now, handouts at a table, when you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, is simply just taking a piece of paper, reaching across the table, and handing it to your players, or spreading it out in front of them like a map. Not so easy when it comes to online play. When you're playing over Discord, for example, you're basically forced to just put images in Discord. Yet again, another tab or window that your players are going to have to migrate to away from your tabletop. So there's a variety of systems out there, but again, like D&D Beyond doesn't have an embedded handout option. So again, you're having to use an alternate way to get information that's visual in front of your players. For me, what I really love about Shard is that it has a great handout feature. So I click on Pick a Handout, and it pulls up a list of handouts that I've curated possibly ahead of time. In this situation, I haven't. So I'll just pick on one that they have pre-populated, and we'll click on it. And boom. That immediately gets forced right to all of your players' tabletop, right to their screen. So the power of a visual element is now just amped up again. So if they're interacting with an NPC and you want that NPC look to be right on screen while you're engaging with them, if you want a picture of a monster to be there while you're speaking to them to help fuel their imagination again, just click on a handout, pre-populate a handout for them, and away you go. You have no idea the power of a good illustration or piece of artwork when it comes to just amping up the imagination of players. So I can't overstate that. So there are a lot of features. I could do a 2-hour video on Shard just talking about all of the amazing things that it does well, but here are the hot points. One, it's a fairly easy interface for players to interact with. Everything's done with very good text. The menus are very, very well laid out. And not only that, you can actually customize the look of the actual screen and tabletop with different colors, different fonts, and different images to make it more sensible to the players. So, love the interface. It's clean, it's intuitive, and it does what it needs to do. Number 2 is the actual functionality of it as far as speed and intuitiveness. So during a game session, lesser game tables will sometimes slow down because of internet connections or whatever the case may be, whether it's your computer problem or your computer quality or whatnot. Running this in a full session of 4 players plus myself was seamless and didn't slow down in any way. So that's a very important thing when it comes to virtual tables, and Shard ticks that box as well. So number 3 that I like about it is Shard gives me, the Dungeon Master, a place to keep all of my content. So basically, virtual tables need to provide a play space, but as a Dungeon Master, I look to virtual tables to provide me with a way to organize my adventures. I mean, I run 4 adventures a week, so I mean, in the world of Dungeon Mastering, I'm doing a lot of it. So I like a place where I can keep my notes, I can organize my adventures and encounters, and have it all under one hood versus, say, using D&D Beyond and then going to a different menu in D&D Beyond to look at my encounters, and then not even having a depository for my adventures that I've pre-written. Shard does that, and it does it really well in the form of journals, in the form of logs, and in the form of books. So they've got that accommodation made for Dungeon Masters who are building out large campaigns. So the last thing I like about Shard, and my biggest thing is I know it sounds like a minor thing, but I love the visual interface. And that's different than the intuitiveness of it. What I mean is that I love the look, the use of colors, and the fact that they lean into identifying things on the map like NPCs with a token, allowing you to attach images to your equipment and allowing you to customize the look and color and feel of the tabletop. In this video, I've basically defaulted to the vanilla style, which is basically the dark brownish red tabs with the sort of D&D Player's Handbook paper color. I like that. It's easy on the eyes, and it also makes using the interface really seamless as well for me. So that's a really big deal for me when it comes to virtual tabletops, the actual visual elements, and yeah, that's just sort of what I gravitate towards. So thanks for tuning into this short video, just talking about the Shard Virtual Table. It is a free virtual table, but I highly recommend that if you are a Dungeon Master and you are going to throw your weight into a VTT before the inevitable, Dungeons & Dragons official 3D virtual table shows up, and we still don't know how good that's going to be. you can't go wrong by getting involved with Shard. If you need any tips, throw them in the comments section. I'll be glad to answer them. And I appreciate you watching. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel as well, because this stream will eventually end up on the YouTube channel. And as always, everybody be safe out there, be kind, and have fun playing Dungeons and Dragons. Before you go, I need your help. I'm trying to grow the exposure of what we do here at Maverick Games. My goal is to actually bring information to parents and students around the world in hopes that they can see gaming as a path forward for learning, academics, and even support of neurodivergency. Please subscribe, make sure you click on those notifications, and I hope that you'll find content here that will be helpful for you and maybe others. Thank you very much, and thanks for tuning in.